All right, everyone. I'm very, very, very happy and pleased. This is our first live event since March 2020, when I gave a speech at Cafe Azteca saying all this stuff is a bunch of baloney, and I'm glad that everybody came out and had their margaritas, because it's just going to be like the flu. And the next day, the whole world absolutely shut down the next day. And there I was babbling for the next 3 months on cable TV, saying nothing was going to happen. So we're back. It took a few years, but we're back. So thank you for coming. My name's Harry Durso. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Robert Frost Foundation. And we lost our venue, Cafe Azteca, during COVID. And we're on our way to find a new venue. We're going to invite all of you in the fall. We're going to have a brand new venue to meet and do live events. And hopefully, with Max's help, we'll do some hybrid Zoom, and we'll get the momentum going again for our group here. Okay? So we've come a long way. So tonight we have two outstanding poets, Paulette Turco and Rena Espiat, whose name I misspelled last month at least 20 or 30 times. And it's a great time to be together. I want to thank a few people before we start. I want to thank Dan Vlahouse, the graphic arts professor at Merrimack College, and his students for developing all our graphics this past year. And Max Shore and I went over there one evening in the fall, and I'll tell you, we had one of the most spectacular evenings of inspiration, of cultural exchange, of just opening ourselves up to these students at Merrimack College who were just fantastic. Right, Max? They were just unbelievable to us. We were there for hours. They asked about Max's father, Mark Shore. They asked about the Robert Frost Foundation. They asked about the history of Lawrence. And they were all from all over the country. And they asked about our personal lives as academics and as people interested in poetry. One of the nicest nights I've ever spent was at Merrimack College talking to those kids. And I want to thank Dan Vlahouse for doing that for us. And I feel that it has to be part of what we're about, is sharing with other people. That's the first time we reached out to Merrimack, and they were wonderful, absolutely wonderful to us. I'd like to also thank Christina Andrade right there, who without a second said, Harry, we're going to come and cover it. We're going to come and cover it. There's no problem. It's a cultural event in Lawrence. I'll be there. She's right there. All right? Okay? Again, it was something wonderful to hear that on the phone. I'll be there. We're going to rebuild, because we're going to have people like Christina and Dan and everyone helping us rebuild, because Lawrence has a cultural base. It's not in the paper. We don't hear about it on the news, but it has a cultural base, and we're the start of it right here. During the last couple of years, we had a very tough time. We lost our two executive directors, Max's father, Mark Shore, and Jessica Sanchez, who passed away unexpectedly, and several of our board members resigned or left the group. And it's very hard to replace people today, especially during COVID. So I want to thank Max, right there, raise your hand, Max, who is our acting executive director this year. I probably email Max 3 or 4 times a day, and he answers me 3 or 4 times a year. But that's Max, okay, who acted as our executive director. And I want to thank our entire board of directors. I want to thank Richard Gorham. Where Rich? Raise your hand. Rich here? All right, Richard Gorman, Karen Klein, Kate Hernandez, Helena Minton, and Michael Feingold for working so hard. We had several great Hoots this year on Zoom. We had brought a lot of poetry together, and we were successful. And we're planning a lot of events for next year as well. I want to thank also Karen Klein and Helena Minton recently did a poetry bee at the Weatherby School. And this was a tremendous achievement of us reaching out into the community. Karen, raise your hand, and Helena, raise your hand. This was an extraordinary thing because it's keeping the poetry alive. That's what Mark Shaw wanted when he started the group. And they did a wonderful thing. And one of the teachers at the Weatherby School commissioned a poem from an African poet, Jephthah Malaya. And if we have time at the end of the night, I'm going to read his poem, and we're going to take turns reading it. Because it's about Lawrence. And it was written in Africa about Lawrence and his feelings about doing research about our city. How much better cultural interchange is that? To have us reach the kids at Weatherby, to have the kids at Weatherby have their teachers reach out to Africa, and to realize that people are aware of Robert Frost, they're aware of Lawrence as being a place where people worked hard and developed part of the American culture right here in those mills. So isn't that a wonderful thing? And I congratulate them for running that for us. And tonight we're going to have two wonderful poets, Paulette Turco and Rena Espia. And they're both very different, and they're both similar. Paulette is from the Newburyport area, and so is Rena, and they're part of the Powwow Poets, I believe. And they're very well-known poets. They have books out. There's a book table right there for sale. I want you guys to go see Kate Hernandez and purchase their books. And I also want everyone to keep an eye on our Facebook page, Robert Frost Foundation, for upcoming events. And we're going to start getting going early in the fall, hopefully in September. Okay? So tonight we're going to have two hosts. I'm going to introduce the first host, Karen Klein, who's going to come up and introduce Paulette Turco. Karen, you're on.
Oh, usually I don't need one of these because I have what they call an outside voice, which usually gets me in big trouble. But tonight, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Paulette, maybe you don't remember when we met. May 23rd, 2020. And we were also, Rena, trying to put together a wonderful program in September of 2021 with Juan Matos from Worcester. It was going to be wonderful, but it didn't work live. We did it Zoom, which is good, but not the best. This is the best. Hugging, smiling, few tears, but really good. And I'm glad to see everybody. There are more people here than I really sort of thought from the outside parking. I was surprised. And Paulette, I'd like you to come up, and you have a wonderful new book. I'd like you to speak about that, and then please come and read forever.
Can everyone hear me? Wonderful. This is such an honor. Thank you, Karen Klein and Max Shore and the whole board of the Robert Frost Foundation for this great honor to read my poetry and share my art on the screen in the Lawrence Public Library. I know you're looking for a place where you can have food and drink, but this is a very historic place across the street from the high school. It's a wonderful place. And I get to read with my first and ongoing poetry mentor and friend, world-renowned, Lawrence-renowned, Merrimack Valley-renowned, Rena, and we'll add Polonius Espia. You couldn't fit the middle names on the poster. And I've dedicated, it's such an honor because I've dedicated my new book, which has just been released in the last week, to Rena and my family. So that probably means I adopted her, right? So this is my first full collection. It's of my art and my poetry. The book's available in paperback, and I brought both versions. It is such an honor to share my work in the city where Robert Frost attended and graduated from Lawrence High School with his future wife, Eleanor White, as fellow valedictorians. I sometimes wonder if she allowed him, to just be equal, that maybe she might have been just a little bit ahead, but no, that's a little feminist, so I won't say that. But that's pretty something to be have exactly the same grade. That meant they both were working very hard. And I thank everybody in the audience for being here. Lawrence holds a special place in my heart for several reasons, but I might mention one in particular. Although I worked in Boston full-time, 2 days a month for 40-plus years, I was an optometrist and saw patients with vision loss in Lawrence. And the last 10 years, probably, my practice was in North Andover. Well, I was in the Tallman Eye Associates practice, a consultant, and many of my patients lived in Lawrence. There was one of the first things I learned in Spanish. Does everyone here speak Spanish? Okay. This is one of the first things I learned in Spanish. Mire arriba. And abra los ojos bien grande. Those two sentences were very, very helpful. I learned more from my patients over time. And if there's time, I will read a poem of mine in my limited Spanish, which Rena translated into Spanish. So my challenge is to actually say it correctly. And I will do my best. You might not know that on March 22nd, 2020, a week after or 9 days after the lockdown, the Robert Frost Foundation announced the winners of that year's poetry contest. And I am so grateful that my poem, Singer, won the contest that year. Thank you. And my poem, Annulment, which Rena translated, was one of 10 given an honorable mention. So I am very grateful, and hopefully have time to read both of them. Most of the poems that I will read are in my collection, my newest collection, and I'll show the accompanying art on the screen, and maybe the people who are watching remotely might not see the art yet, although I could hold it up. Should I hold up the art? See how many hands I have. Okay. The book is arranged in 6 sections, and I will read 1 or 2 poems in each section. Does everyone still hear me? Waves, wishes, flight, flow, beacons, home. I will read 1 or 2 poems from each section. Oh, I already said that, didn't I? And I will, this was I was not an essential worker. I was retired, so I had time to go on walks. And so I had time to reflect, and it really helped influence my art during that time, and that became this collection. So let's see. The first poem I will read, who is our, yes, could we forward? Oh, yes. See, we have a very well-trained slide controller. So this is the art that inspired this poem. And for those watching remotely, am I holding this in the right place? Okay. Shimmer, the title poem. Sun rays shimmer in the air. Time melts as foam-topped waves crash down on sparkling sand as on a dare. Sun rays shimmer in the air. At high tide, castles disappear. My child's towel becomes a gown. Sun rays shimmer in the air. Time melts as foam-topped waves crash down. My second poem is from section 2. And this is the Spanish form from the 1500s, an O Viejo. Cast on, O Viejo, for Adeline. Design your pattern. Use your wit as you knit. Don't count the hours, the reknit rows. Dream, fingers, toes. The blanket grows, each knit and pearl for baby girl, who'll someday tiptoe, spin and twirl. Soon, Mom, will swaddle her in blue and yellow softness, knit by you. As you knit, dream, fingers, toes, for baby girl. And we have another wish poem, and this is the poem that.
A little bit closer to the mic.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Better here?
Closer to the mic.
That's not working. That's our mic. Oh, that's your mic. I have to be close to both mics. How's that? Closer to this one?
You're fine wherever you are.
Okay. So just a side comment, the sewing machine is the same model sewing machine that sewed the gowns. Singer. The last time my mother closed her sewing machine, she'd sewn my sister's gown of silk and lace, a veil with pearls, fulfilling her own wish. The house, now her own space, would have no hum. She'd reached the private goal she'd set herself, to dress each daughter till her wedding day, plus bridesmaids' gowns in her own dress that day. She learned how fabric stressed her one machine and oiled it well, used threads she chose herself. She learned the slip of silk, the weave of lace, required she guide her singer, feel its hum, with yards and yards of fabric toward her wish of daughters dressed by her, beyond her wish when she took her vows on her wedding day. While her love served in Normandy, she'd hum soft tunes of his return. No sewing machine. Her trousseau was of borrowed silk and lace. Her groom gave her a singer. She'd teach herself. She made her first dress simply for herself, an A-line shift in navy blue. Her wish for Christmas, velvet, Easter's handmade lace, came first in trimmings for the holiday. As we arrived, she cherished her machine. From birth, we breathed in rhythm with its hum. She'd set the bobbin, press the footplate, hum a favorite tune, and fit each dress herself in flowered prints, pastels, as her machine sewed ribbons, pleats. Yes, every daughter's wish. For birthdays, dances, gowns for spring prom day, chiffon and velvet, rayon, linen, lace. All sewing done, she stored away her lace, knit blankets, scarves a while. Soon wonder, hums, words lost from lullabies. On shopping days with daughters, friends, she lost her sense of self, what was said, and where she was. Her wish undone. Confusion. What machine? What meal? What day? What daughter? What is lace? Our photos prove how her machine would hum. Our wish, her awe. I stitched these gowns myself? Thank you. Thank you. Wishes. Now I'll go on to Flight. This is also an Oviejo, a short poem, Monarch. Imagining infinity in seconds, she sees endless possibility, feeling free, a speck of silhouette on sky, flutters high. Her fragile wings and compound eye will guide her through each day and night to Mexico, where she'll alight. In seconds, she, feeling free, flutters high. And I will now move to the section 4, Flow. A short poem. This has a ballad-type rhythm. Sail under a veiled moon. The whistling breeze balloons the sail as cool flows by my face. Dad's dory glides while ripples trail, humming as we outpace the mango-tinted moon's ascent, the not yet cobalt sky, the lemon lake past sun's descent, as lavender drifts by. And on to section 5, Beacons. Orange sky in Charlevoix. She never could imagine this great lake, illuminated by the setting sun, bright as a centenarian's birthday cake, candles all aflame. This day is not done. This lighthouse, water surface, cloud-filled sky, capture this slant of light for moments here, before the lighthouse beam will blink its eye, as if afloat, for mariners to veer their ships around threats hidden by the night. For now, the miracle of waves of light meanders through the surfaces she'll view without him, pleased to be among the few to capture this collage of orange red. It will not last, nor change what lies ahead. And I'll now move to section 6. This is a test of balance. Okay. Forgotten Pale. This is a triolet. One day of sun and waves and sand, a day she spends beside her friend, a trusty pail in her hand. One day of sun and waves and sand, a castle, moat, that will not stand once the tide rolls in, to end one day of sun and waves and sand, one day she spends beside her friend. And this is also a poem in section 6, the closest to total night that I've painted. On the edge of light, a sonnet. The harbor surface holds the rim of day, reflected in each ripple, every ray remaining in an iridescent sky, dimming as a gull or tern coasts by. As the expanse of brilliant gold descends, the seaside town it slips behind, suspends its hubbub in a summer time of sun and ocean, silently becoming one demarcation, harbinger of night, a silhouette that separates the light from darkening indigo and fading rose to momentary lavender. Who knows how many tints of evening strands compose this scene before the onyx shadow grows. Thank you. And I will just read the epigraph of the closing poem, Sunset on Plum Island Marsh. You may recognize who's speaking. It's a quote. I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time, but how he set, I know not. Emily Dickinson. So that's the setting. And I will read, I will now read my Spanish and English poem. And if we go to the next slide, we will see the words, and I'm not sure if you can read the words, but it's in English on the left and in Spanish, well, on the right, and then in Spanish on the left. In English, annulment. Holy Family Sunday, 1985. We sit beside each other in the pew, unprepared for what this priest will preach, who will be the focus of his reach. He's garbed in white. What will he choose to do? He knows about my sister's recent woes, her overdose of Ambien, and how her husband said, I'm gay, that day. His vow to her a lie, she feels eclipsed. He chose. He loves his partner, loves his kids. Misled, years in his bed, she's borne 2 sons. And now she prays the church tribunal grants, somehow, that in the eyes of God, she never wed. The priest invites practitioners to transcend all shadows in your family. Pray. Amen. In Spanish, please forgive me if I say this wrong. Anulación, Domingo de la Sagrada Familia. Entre los feligreses aquí estamos, juntos, ansiosos. ¿Qué predicará este cura todo en blanco? ¿Qué dirá? Y dirigido a quién? ¿Qué hará? Esperamos. Él sabe que mi hermana se tomó un puñado de drogas. Le fue mal el día que declaróse homosexual, su esposo, a Dios sus votos, y escogió el amado y sus hijos, a ella despojada, a pesar de los dos que había parido, tantos años en cama del marido. Hoy le toca rezar no ser casada ante Dios y su iglesia. Y reza el cura, guárdese la familia santa y pura. Thank you. Thank you. And for my closing poem, I'm going to read from my first poem ever published, and it's about gardening in May. And it's in my first chapbook. Work or play? What draws me to the soil in May? When jonquil's yellow trumpets fade, I wear loose clothes to dig all day. I could be sipping lemonade. Instead, I shape the U's with shears, wear a visored cap and cotton socks, mix compost, loam, and sweat salt tears. I tear through roots and toss small rocks. I choose my plants for shade or sun, form tiers, mix textures, spans of bloom. Plant periwinkles just for fun. French marigolds where I find room. Memorial Day, my view, once plain, is crowned by rainbows after rain. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paulette. That was extraordinary. Appreciate it so much. My name is Rich Gorham. I teach at Lawrence High School and I'm a member of the board of the Frost Foundation. And it is my honor to introduce the incredible Rena Espaillat and welcome her once again to Lawrence and to the Robert Frost Foundation Poetry Hoot. Over the course of her storied career, and I learned this evening that Rena began writing poetry before she could write, at the age of 4, dictating poems to her mother. But over the course of her career, Rena has written, collaborated, and translated extensively, writing biculturally and bilingually, inspiring a wide spectrum of audience with her work. Born in the Dominican Republic under the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo, she came to the United States with her family as political exiles and found a home. Her numerous published works include Mundo y Palabra, Rehearsing Absence, and most recently, The Glorious Collection and After All. Her translation of the works of Robert Frost into Spanish has brought his work to a wide new audience and was recognized with the Frost Foundation's Tree in My Window Award. She is the recipient of numerous prizes, including 3 Poetry Society of America awards, and has been honored by the likes of Robert Shaw and X.J. Kennedy. In 2008, she was honored by Salem State University with the Lifetime Achievement Award. Always generous, supportive, and collaborative with other writers, she's a founding member of the Fresh Meadow and Powwow River Poets. Her work again and again demonstrates for us the power of the craft of poetry and thoughtful word choice, while remaining plain-spoken, accessible, and optimistic. On a personal note, Rena's poem, Bilingual Bilingue, has been a staple of my curriculum at Lawrence High School for years and has helped many LHS students make sense of their own lives in the Dominican diaspora. It is an honor to welcome Rena Espaillat.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, for the invitation to come and read to, oh, this crowd is marvelous. Those who speak Spanish and those who don't. I love all of you. I'm going to begin with a book that is called Mundo y Palabra, The World and the Word. And this is in both languages because it's dedicated to my teachers who gave me so much of the world and of the Word. I'm going to begin with a letter to the future. I love writing to the dead, the unborn, all sorts of impossible people, because I believe that on some level we are all one family, the living and the dead, the far away and the nearby, the near neighbors and those whom we'll never meet. So I write to everybody. This one is called Para mi tataranieto, el astro pionero. Tú, fulanito, que por los caminos de mi sangre te lanzas al futuro, dime si te llevas los 1000 sabores del viento, la voz del río, las lenguas de musgo y helecho que cantan la tierra. ¿Y dónde dejaste la lluvia? Que no se te pierda, ni el gemir de la gaviota en su desierto azul, ni esas estrellas tibias como caricias que no encontrarás en tus noches de acero. Fíjate que no te falten mariposas. Apréndete el color de las horas y toma que en esta cajita de huesos te dejo el perfume de los mares. And this is for my great-great-grandson. Now, I'm a very old lady, but I don't have any such family yet. So this is imaginary. This young man is imaginary, but I believe in him. I believe he will come, and I'm hoping that someday he will remember that he had a crazy grandmother who wrote poetry. Great-great-grandmother. For my great-great-grandson, the space pioneer. You, what's your name? Who down the byways of my blood are hurtling toward the future, tell me if you've packed the 1,000 flavors of the wind, the river's voice, the tongues of moss and fern, singing the earth. And where have you left the rain? Careful, don't lose it. Nor the moan of the seagull in her blue desert, nor those stars warm as caresses you will not find again in your nights of steel. Watch that you don't run short of butterflies. Learn the colors of the hours, and here, in this little case of bones, I've left you the perfume of the sea. So that's for my... I'll tell you what, let's hold the applause and at the end just throw everything, throw flowers. And this is for my introductor, whom I can't thank enough for what he said. This is bilingue. My father liked them separate, one there, one here, allá y aquí, as if aware that words might cut into his daughter's heart, el corazón, and lock the alien part to what he was, his memory, his name, su nombre, with a key he could not claim. English outside this door, Spanish inside, he said, y basta. But who can divide the world, the word, mundo y palabra, from any child? I knew how to be dumb and stubborn, testaruda. Late in bed, I hoarded secret syllables I read until my tongue, mi lengua, learned to run where his stumbled. And still the heart was one. I like to think he knew that, even when, proud, orgulloso of his daughter's pen, he stood outside mis versos, half in fear of words he loved but wanted not to hear. And I want to say that my father, who came here feeling, oh, this is going to be very difficult, because there had been invasions by American Marines in the Dominican Republic. And he felt, oh, I don't know how I'm going to live in this country that disgraced the land I was born in. He came to love this country so much that when World War II broke out, he arrived home one day very late, and my mother said, where have you been? Supper's getting cold on the table. He said, I don't want to talk about it. And she said, you don't want to talk about it. You're going to tell me right now where you've been. He said, I tried to join the army. And he was at that point 30-something, with no eyesight whatsoever, bad bones, a back that didn't work, and flat feet. And my mother said, "Do you really think the United States wants to lose this war?" So he became as American as the rest of us, and he loved it for what it was and for its people, and so do I. You call me by old names. Should I read this one? No, I'm not going to read that one. I'm going to read this one instead. Bodega. I was walking along one of the streets in Queens, in New York, and I smelled something so delicious that I couldn't stand it. And it was sniff, sniff, and it was a bodega. It was a Spanish grocery. And they were feeding people all the things that I used to live at home, that eat at home. Bodega. Bitter coffee, musty beans, caramel and guava jam, rice and sausage, nippy cheese, saffron, anise, honey, ham, rosemary, oregano, clove, allspice, and bacalao. 50 years have blown away. Childhood falls around me now. Childhood and another place where the tang of orange sweets golden on the vendor's tray drifts like laughter through the streets. Memory is filament, weaving what I am. Bitter coffee, musty beans, caramel, and guava jam. So, thank you. I think I'll go on to this one now. Now, I was at a wonderful meeting this past weekend where the aim of every poet and translator who was there was to bring the human family together. Just what's going on here tonight. And some of what I wrote is not very sweet, but it's the truth, so forgive me. This is called More, a loaded sonnet for the NRA. The more I hear you tout the goods you sell and blather on about the right to bear, ambiguous phrase, the more dead children lie thanks to those aimless goons, your clientele, where parents tremble checking on who's there. The more I watch slick hacks whose votes you buy with your blood money glibly sanctify not hunters' arms, but implements of war. The more mere life means less, apparently, than shooters' rights. The more you offer prayer to heal the families of those who fell. The more you claim we are not safe or free unless we're as well armed as we can be, the more I wish I could believe in hell. Sorry. But it's the truth, and sometimes the truth, even if it hurts, has to be said. We need to stop the death of innocent people, especially children, who are my favorite people. The legislative far right weighs in on birth control and school lunches. We're pledged to save each blastula, each gastrula, and fetus from all the godless lefties who are running to unseat us. But once you're born, alive and hungry, kid, you're on your own. Outside the womb, there's no free lunch. Don't text, don't write, don't phone. Okay. I promise to behave myself from here on in. The title of this book is The Path Belongs to Us, and the title came from a wonderful series of poems that Antonio Machado, the great Spanish poet of the early 20th century, wrote. He wrote little feathery things, 6 lines, 8 lines, 4 lines, but they all get to you. And this one begins this way. I won't read it in Spanish, but it begins, Caminante, son tus huellas el camino y nada más. And here it is in English. Wayfarer, it is your footprints create the way, nothing more. Wayfarer, there is no way other than the trail you make. Walking on, you trace the way, Look back where you stood before, and you'll see the path your footsteps never again shall take. Wayfarer, there is no way, just the ocean and the wake. And this is a man with a very subtle feeling of what reality means and what human life means and what it calls from us. And what he means by this is, don't follow the path that's there waiting for you, because it's not your path. You make it. You make it, and maybe others will follow yours, but maybe not. It doesn't matter. Everyone has to make his own. And I love this poem because what it promises is very close to what America promises. You make your path. Nobody's going to make it for you and force you on it or let you be lost on it. So, another one of his, which I like very much. El hombre es por natura la bestia paradójica. Man is by his nature a beast. He was not an optimist. He, to put it mildly, not an optimist. He had two sides. He had the first side of, yes, you're free to choose your path, but the other side is, look out, reality is not your friend. Man, by his very nature, is a beast and paradoxic, an absurd animal, in need of logic. Made a world from nothing, his work is done. I know, he says, the secret is that all adds up to none. Which is a kind of bleak view of life. And I like translating his work because he has such different thoughts and such painful thoughts on occasion. Here's the last of his that I'm going to read. I dreamt I saw God, and when he heard me speak, clearly seeming to understand, I once again dreamt that I had been dreaming. Which is the ultimate disappointment, because if God shows up to converse with you, my goodness, you're going to hear something marvelous, right? No, I once again dreamt that I had been dreaming. Here are some poems on another very different... This is called... Should I start with this one or not? Excuse me. Oh, I'll read that one later when everybody's in a good mood. This is called The Jury. The Jury. In a bare tree, 4 strangers gathered from afar slipped into talk, as travelers do. First, Eagle said, "How strange they are, these creatures, lately come to climb our cliffs and spy upon our brood. They have no constancy, but shift from mood to mood. First wanton slaughter, and now zeal to build our hunted tribe again. I cannot fathom them at all." "They are called men," said Pigeon, "and I know them well. I've learned their secret. All they use from day to guide their steps is just their shoes. It's true, my friends. In new spiked boots, yesterday's farmer struts the streets, turned killer, and tomorrow dies derelict with rag-bound feet. More out of sympathy than need, I gather their spilled crumbs to know toward what new grief their wayward shoes would have them go. And yet, said Sparrow, I have known some who would leave their lighted nest to scatter seed through razor winds for our sake, lest we hunger through December days. I've seen them fling their gaze above their comforts to pursue us with something like love. True, Vulture said, for they love me and have my welfare much in mind. In Leningrad, in Lebanon, men were most kind and nourished me with their own young. Vietnam, Verdun, and Angola, Troy, Thermopylae, the love of men is my chief joy. Well, that's as may be, Eagle said, but they are feeble things at best. Condemned to winglessness, they creep in their own shadow, flight-obsessed, a sad smudge upon the earth, half-willingly erased at last. We will possess our own again when they have passed. So let's hope that there still are different birds around when we leave the earth. Here is, oh yes, we are poets after all. By the way, I have to say that I'm here with a great deal of difficulty because I had to follow a woman who is not just a poet and a marvelous dressmaker and a marvelous everything and an eye doctor. There's nothing she can't do. But on top of that, she does the paintings also. This is her artwork. So I'm here with shaky boots. These 4 poems that I'm going to continue with are about poets and what they go through and what they do and what they hope for. Here's one called "The Poet Attempts a Firm Resolve During a Long Dry Spell." All of us have dry spells, sometimes months and months, and they're all nodding. They know what I'm talking about. And this is one time when I had gone for months and months, and I decided I was going to break off with my muse. My muse was not my friend anymore, and I wanted to break it up. I've made my mind up, and I'll say it once. Muse, you've had all of me you're going to get. What else did you expect? After these months of silence and neglect, I pine and let the suitors feast without me, lone, alert for the least whispered sign of your return. And where are you? Spoiled lover, heartless flirt. I trace your far philandering while I burn, tormented by cruel rumors. Here a prize I hankered for, gone to some witless hack. And there, prestigious journal and there another published, damn her eyes, by that prestigious journal I can't crack. Relent, you say? Never. But what's the use? I know your wiles, how soon your gifts begin to trickle in, the dozen clever, loose rhymes, fresh picked, come hithering like sin, that single long-stemmed metaphor I pluck just before sleep descends. That's how it goes. You're back. I sigh. You have your way. My luck. And how this long affair will end, God knows. And here is, well, I love teaching. I love teaching altogether, but teaching poetry is my favorite thing. It has to be the most delightful job there is. But sometimes you have pupils in the class who are, well, let me not gossip, okay? A reader congratulates me. No, not that one, not that one. It's this one I'm going to read. Yes, work in progress, work in progress. He showed me some and asked for my advice. I pointed out a line that wouldn't scan, a pair of rhymes that cried for a divorce, and commented but briefly on the quotes in foreign alphabets unglossed. Of course, he said, and nodded, and took notes, as if okay with all of it. And then I added, put back every the, and, an, and ah. It's almost nothing what they do, but articles make what they say ring true. And that's something I tell all students. Don't cut out the articles. It sounds peculiar. You never know what buttons not to touch, which almost nothing's gone to prove too much. This morning, he submitted work again. But brusque, defensive, with a hint of spice. Only fool goes for walk in minefield twice. Next time I'll tell him, poem very nice. You never know what you're going to get into trouble with. And here is a reader. Oh, this was I have to tell you the story of this. This is very peculiar. A man contacted me and he said, I remember a poem of yours that has stayed with me all my life. I have never forgotten it. I love that poem. I read it every day. I said, oh, how wonderful. And what was the title? He gives me the title. I remember. And here it is. He writes that he's my junior by 1 year. I think I can guess why. He's both surprised and glad that I'm still here. Well, so am I. And glad, too, that one aging, kindly man, the boy that he once was, recalls a poem he says I wrote, and can quote it, and does, from memory, apologizing for just one misquoted line. Moving, yes. Would it move me even more if it were mine? I don't know whose it is, or where he found it, or why he remains sure it's mine, or what his memory weaves around it. Errors endure. Would it be wrong to thank him and keep mum for praise I didn't earn? Truth is a iffy thing often, for some too late to learn. But never mind. The author, he or she, will surely be forgiving with old, unwilling plagiarists like me, still busy living. So, let's see if there's another one in here. Oh, yes, there is. This one is serious. This one is called Still Another Ars Poetica. Still another Ars Poetica. Advice for poets. To sing it better, let the words say less, but sing more. Farther than their sense can go. Dole them out with your fingers, stress by stress. Some say you need to shout it, to confess truth like a fever on the lip. But no, I say to sing it truer, say it less. A flame is cooled and quenched by quick excess, but burns like diamonds if it's embered low. Bank it down with your fingers, stress by stress. Oblique is how it's done. Divert, digress, point where it isn't. Look away for just so. They'll hear you better if you tell them less. Or tell it bit by bit, under duress, as if some chain that bound you head to toe left only fingers free to speak distress. Hint as a gossip hints to make them guess. Make it a game of hide and almost show. With wizard fingers, not to feel it less, but better, truer, longer for the stress. And that's what I tell my students. The less you tell them, the more they hear.
Attention please, the library will be closed in 20 minutes at 8 o'clock. Please check out your material at the maintenance assistant.
¿Qué pasa?
Thank you. Atención, por favor, la biblioteca estará cerrada en 20 minutos a las 8 de la noche. Por favor, retire sus materiales en el departamento de circulación. Gracias.
Can I continue? Okay. That was exciting. Well, all right. I'm going to read, what did I do? Oh, I left the other one there. Excuse me. This is a book that is almost out. I received my own copy. I'm not the author, but the translator, and I just got it on Saturday. So I'm thrilled to pieces, and eventually it's going to be out for the public. And it's called The Spring That Feeds the Torrent, Poems by St. John of the Cross. And the translations are mine. Now, I grew up hearing this man's poetry because my father, who loved poetry, used to walk around in his slippers reciting things madly because, they were poems, and poems are sacred. So I would like to read maybe a couple of these. I should tell you that St. John of the Cross lived in the 17th century. He was in the same century and writing the same kind of work as, for instance, John Donne or George Herbert, or all of the poets in England that are called the metaphysical poets. They use outrageous metaphors, outrageous figures of speech of all kinds, and they are, quite literally, in love with God. So don't be shocked by the almost sexual sound of this poetry, because it is the 17th century speaking, and it can be shocking. If you've never heard mystical poetry, it can be shocking. But what they meant was that the poet is the wife. The poet is the wife, and of course the soul is feminine. And it's supposed to be feminine. And the soul is always looking for the husband. The husband or lover has traveled off somewhere, and she's out looking for him because she cannot live without him. So, like all happily married couples, there is sex involved. What can you do? And this one is called, he's one of the great poets of the world, not only of Spain, but of the world. I'll read maybe the first stanza, that's all, and in Spanish, and then I'll go on to the English. En una noche oscura, canción de la subida del Monte Carmel, the dark night of the soul. En una noche oscura, con ansias en amores, inflamada, oh dicha aventura. No, this is not working. All right. En una noche oscura, con ansias en amores inflamada, oh dichosa aventura, salí sin ser notada, estando ya mi casa sosegada. A oscuras y segura por la secreta escala disfrazada, oh dichosa aventura, a oscuras y encelada, estando ya mi casa sosegada. She's leaving her home at night, the lights are all out, the family's all asleep, and she's decided to go out and find her lover. And this is the soul speaking. One darkest night I went, aflame with love's devouring, eager burning, oh delirious event, no witnesses discerning, the house now still from which my steps were turning. Hidden by darkness, bent on flight, disguised, down secret steps sojourning, oh delirious event, hidden by dark and yearning, the house now still from which my steps were turning, in that most blissful night, in secrecy, since none had seen my going, nor did I pause for sight, nor had I light for showing the route, but that which in my heart was glowing. This only did the guiding, surer than the blaze when noonday shone, to where he was abiding, who was to me well known, where we would be together and alone. O night that led me true, O night more fair than morning's earliest shining, O night that wrought from two, lover, beloved entwining, belover and loved, and lover one in their combining. On my new-flowered breast, to him alone and wholly sanctified, he leaned and lay at rest. His pleasure was my guide, and cedars to the wind their scent supplied. Down from the tower, breezes came, while soft fingers winnowed through his hair. A touch that wounds and pleases caressed my throat with air, leaving every sense suspended there. I stayed, all else forgetting, inclined toward the beloved, face to face, all motion halted, letting care vanish with no trace, forgotten in the lilies of that place. And that's St. John of the Cross. Do I have time for one more?
One more.
One more. Okay.
I'm giving you the hook.
You're going to give me the hook? All right. Maybe I'll just read a short one. Okay. Brace yourselves. This one is even worse. Songs of the soul, an intimate, amorous communion with God. O love, you living flame, who wound with tender fire my very soul, down to its depths descending, no longer hushed by shame, come now to your desire, sunder the veil that parts for sweet befriending. O soft subjection, O wound that joys beget, O gentle hand, O touch with pleasures ripe that hints at resurrection and ransoms every debt. You have done death to death and made it life. O fiery lamps ignited, whose bright resplendent gleams light those deep caverns where the mind in hiding dwelt blind and all benighted. Your dazzling radiance streams warm rays on the beloved there abiding. How tenderly you love me, and conjure in my breast that secret place where you alone are treasured. How, your sweet breath above me, by heaven's good possessed, with what rare lover's skill have I been pleasured. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where's the hook?
Let's hear it for Rena. That's the poster that Merrimack College did up on the wall. That's the poster that Merrimack College did. I've never heard anyone explain John Donne like you just did, because no one understood his fervent love of God was sexual. No one understands why that happened. And if you study John Donne, he was an ecclesiastical, pretty much a priest, but his so fervent faith was that. And you're the only person who ever said that to me besides people in college.
And don't forget Joy Herbert.
Yes.
The same thing, magical.
Well, I'm glad I went to school because I wouldn't have understood you tonight. Very good. What a wonderful evening, people. You know, let's have a hand for Paulette. Let's have a hand for Rena. And you know, the magical thing about this, the wonderful thing about this, is virtually every person in the audience is a great poet themselves. Let's hear a hand for everyone here tonight. All right? I want to hear a hand for Max Shore and his mother. Is he? No, it's all right. This family has done more for poetry in this area. Huh? All right. This family's done so much for poetry in this area. You know, we could go on. I don't have time to go through the African poets tonight, but I want to congratulate Helen and Karen for doing the Weatherby School. When we do the one in September, we'll do it then. It's a wonderful poem, and this poet from Africa is a very well-known poet in Africa, and he devoted his time to writing a poem about Lawrence, which I thought was very, very nice. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I want to thank Paulette and Rena for exquisite poetry reading.